Hi, Stacy with Stalking Horse here. So we've seen a lot of questions and concerns in the forums for coding in regard to interviewing and landing a job in coding. So both coming from people who maybe have been at a particular place of work for a while and are looking for a change, or also those that are new into the field and are looking to kind of break in and get their first job. So we have some interviewing tips and tricks for you that we're going to share, and so make sure that you stay tuned so that you can get these wonderful tips coming from us. We do a lot of interviewing. We've done quite a bit of hiring, and so this is again coming from the side of the employer, and also having been there myself and gone through that process of trying to get my foot in the door in the field. I'll share my experience with you and how I actually landed that first job and what it's been like since. So just stay tuned to get these great tips. Hi, Stacy here. Thanks for tuning in. So we're going to get started with talking about landing that first job. So I actually went to school for coding. After school, they had externship programs, and I needed a job actually, like right away. I needed to start getting some income coming in, and so I was trying to find even a paid externship so that I could finish my program with school and also make money, and so that was a particular challenge. At the time, the certifications weren't as big as they are now. So now you really can't find a job in coding unless you have that certification. It's very, very rare. Occasionally, if you're an extern and you are you've gone to work somewhere and you're doing an excellent job, sometimes they'll go ahead and hire you on, but kind of knowing that you're going to sit for that certification. But it can be very difficult to find a job in coding without the certification. So I actually decided to apply like crazy. And I really was determined to find something, and I didn't want to give up or let them say, oh, you must have 5 years experience, because I figured, well, what's the worst that could happen? If I go ahead and I apply, or I send in my resume, they either just won't call me back or I won't get the job. But what I will get is experience. So what I will get from that is interview experience, is experience with people looking at my resume, experience with applying. So I can't even tell you how many positions I applied for. And I mean, I was looking through the newspaper, I was looking a little bit online, because at the time, looking online wasn't as big as it is today. So it actually took quite a bit of effort. I had to actually leave, go to whatever, Office Depot or Staples or somewhere to fax my resume. I couldn't email it. So I was just sending resumes out everywhere. And I did get a couple of interviews. I did get a couple of letters back where I was being told that, okay, you don't meet the criteria, but thank you for applying. And so number one thing is, don't let that get you down. It's about the experience and what you learn, and it can take quite a bit of time for you to get your foot in the door somewhere. But the interview that I landed, that I actually got my job from, was one of the craziest experiences out there. So I got a call about an interview. It was set up. It was actually an hour away from my home, so I had to drive an hour. I get to the place. It was like a larger building. I park. I go in, and I get put in this like back room, and kind of cold, kind of like no windows. Just felt kind of, I don't know, a little bit scary. And then you're already nervous when you're going to interview. So a couple of people came in, and then the person who would be my boss immediately said to me, "You're not my first choice. My first choice is coming in to interview after you. Do you still even want to interview?" And so I kind of had to take a step back, and I'm thinking in my head, wow, like we haven't even had the interview yet, and you already have made up your mind that I'm not the one that you're gonna hire. So I'm thinking, how do you respond to that? So I said, yes, I would still like to interview, because even if I'm not your first choice after today, I would still like the opportunity to work with your company, and perhaps something will open up in the near future that you would consider me for. So with that being said, we went into the next part, which was immediately, okay, well, the first thing you need to do is take a test. So here's the test. You can use your coding books. It's got a little bit of everything on it. Good luck. So I'm left in this cold, dark room with a test in front of me with my books, and I start taking the test. So I started thinking critically, kind of using the skills that I learned from school and looking at this and thinking about where I was, thinking about the particular company that I was interviewing for, and I realized I had some questions. So I actually was like kind of flagging them, kind of going out the door and asking some questions. My questions were more around, well, you're asking me these questions about x-rays and such, but I don't know if this company owns the equipment. I don't know if it would be billed with the technical component or the professional component, so my TC or my 26. And I could tell that just by asking those questions, they were kind of like lighting up a little bit, like, okay, maybe she knows a little bit of something. So I finished the test. They asked me just a few questions. I answered those questions. Honestly, at this point, I can't even really remember what those really were, because it was just such a crazy experience. So I leave, I go home, that hour drive back home, and then I would say probably an hour after getting home, I get a call and I'm offered the job. So crazy enough that it started off that I wasn't even on the boss's radar to hire. I sat there, I did the interview anyway, I took the test, and as it turns out, I scored higher on that test than anyone else that was currently working in the company. So I think that kind of spoke volumes as well, but, sticking it in and really, staying grounded and willing to interview and just kind of staying confident, about myself. And, there's a difference between confidence and then being cocky. So again, just being confident and really trying to push to get my foot in the door, it worked. So I actually stayed with that company for quite a few years, and I started off doing some billing work, transferred into their coding department, became coding certified while working there. It was an experience. It was such an experience. So the number one tip is, don't kind of give up, and, don't feel sorry for yourself. Like, that's kind of hard, because occasionally when you're looking for so long, you start to feel defeated. But just keep looking, and keep looking for that company that you really want to get your foot in the door with. And so let's kind of jump into you guys and how this could help you. So now, years later, with all the experience that I've gained, I'm now the CEO and owner of Stalking Horse. So obviously all of my experience and paying my dues really paid off for me. And so when we go to interview candidates, we look for a few things. So the number one thing is, when someone's first looking to interview, typically what they see is the resume, right? So the resume is very important because it's the first impression that we are receiving of you. So the first thing that I also look for is it visually appealing? Does it look like it's structured? Does it have a nice structure to it? I also personally don't like resumes that are like multiple pages long. A nice one-page resume is very helpful because I don't have a lot of time in between the bazillion other things that I'm doing to be looking at, 3 pages of one person's resume. So if at all possible, trying to get it down to 1 page is very helpful. Also, it really stands out like a sore thumb if there are typos or grammatical errors, and that can speak to your attention to detail and what you think of yourself, because you're putting this resume out as a representation of you. And again, so that visual appearance along with any typos and grammar, that can really speak out. So having someone else review the resume prior to sending it out to potential employers is a really great idea. Even if it's just a friend or an ex-colleague or anyone really that you know, just looking for some of those more obvious, striking typos And if you're unsure of how to do the structure, even Microsoft Word has a template for resumes. So you literally can pull it up in there and just follow the template and put your information in there over the template. So if you're not really that great at it, there are tools out there. There are also companies that can help. But having someone else review your resume is a really, really great idea to catch any of those, small problem areas or errors. The next thing I would say is to be prepared. If you get that call back for an interview, be prepared about the company and if you have any questions. Now, that doesn't suggest that you need to spend, hours online researching everything about that company and when it was established and everything else, but more along the lines of what do they do and where do you think you see this company going and how does that work for you, or how would you fit into that company? And one of the biggest things now is companies usually hire people on as either employees or independent contractors, and some companies do a mix. And so it's important that if that matters to you, that you find that out pretty quickly. Otherwise, you could spend a lot of time preparing for an interview or going through multiple interviews with a company where they're not even offering the type of employment that you want. So if that matters to you, making sure that that's clear. And what are you looking for? Why are you interested in working for that company? Many years ago, it used to be that people would find a job and they would stay in that career like pretty much lifelong. People were retiring with these companies. Now it seems like many people are job hopping and have been doing that for quite a bit. But from what I see, and I can speak for us here at Stalking Horse, we really want people that want to stay with us, that want to grow with the company, that want to stick it out, that this is their career. It doesn't always work out that way. Some people do move on or it doesn't end up being a great fit. But thinking about that for yourself and what that means for you and for the company is important before you get into that interview. That can help you kind of understand and think about questions that you may have for them about where their company is going or what opportunities there may be for you in the future. The next thing would be your appearance. And that's pretty important, in particular if you're going to be on site because you want to make sure that you're dressed appropriately. If I have to tell someone how to dress for an interview, I always thought that was interesting. If you get a call from HR department about coming for an interview and they say dress professional, it's like, if you have to tell me to dress professionally, why would you even want to hire me? Go dressed professional. That's the number one thing. Make sure that you look professional when going to that interview. That's not to say that you have to be in an evening gown, but you just really need to be appropriate and business-like when showing up for the interview. Also, if you're doing it remote, like via Zoom, WebEx, Skype, a remote interview, it's important for you to not only think about how you look, but what your background is. So we actually here at Stalking Horse put a lot of effort into the background that you guys see behind me. So it's important that you think about that as well. So if you're interviewing in your home and then you're facing your kitchen and there's all these crazy things out on your counter, or maybe your dishes haven't been done or something like that, that's probably not the best. So making sure that you pay attention to what's in your background, and also children and pets, trying your best to keep that under control. Making sure that it's during a quiet time of the day, or that you make that a quiet time. Getting, dogs, a lot of times they start barking in interviews, and it can be a little bit, it can throw you off of your game more than anything, honestly. Get you nervous, oh God, my dog's barking. What am I going to, how do I get him to be quiet? So those are the kinds of things that you don't really want happening during the interview, because it will also throw you off of your train of thought and how you're coming across in the interview. So again, making sure your background is well done and that you look professional, you have a professional appearance. And that really will go a long way. So when you're preparing for that interview and really right before you walk in, typically my nerves would get to me, when I arrived and I'm getting ready to go into the interview, or right when I'm waiting for that call, like 15 minutes before the phone call was supposed to happen, or the Skype or the Zoom or whatever for the interview. So taking some deep breaths, like literally can help, and then clearing your mind and just remembering that, they're looking for someone, you're looking to be a part of their company, and why, and bringing yourself back into that confidence and reminding yourself of what you can bring to the table. It is a really good way to kind of ease that out. And just remember, it's a conversation. It's a conversation between you and them. They're looking for someone, they want to find a really good fit, and you're looking for a place to fit into. So really just kind of relax about that, and know that you can kind of just not worry so much about every little thing, and just be natural and confident but not cocky. That's important. And the next thing is really like whether or not someone is a team player factors into this profession. So many people that get into coding and even billing tend to be introverts, and a lot of people think, well, you don't really have to talk to people or have a lot of contact, but that doesn't suggest that you don't need to be a team player. You absolutely need to be a team player, and you need to be able to work with others about certain projects, helping other people to understand, or getting questions answered where you don't have all of the answers. Maybe you need to reach out to someone. So being a team player is big. So kind of showing and expressing that you're a team player is really important. Most positions, again, will require you to work with others, even if you're not directly required to see them every day or talk to them every day. You still need to be able to understand that everybody's working for the company, and you need to come together as a team. The other thing is, we kind of mentioned like confidence versus being cocky. So don't be a know-it-all. Personally, if I'm interviewing someone and they're coming off to me as a know-it-all, that's a big red flag, because that usually means they don't know a lot, or that they're so nervous they have to make it seem like they know everything. Usually people who do know a lot are more, again, relaxed or what have you, and also are not afraid to admit that they don't know everything. None of us know everything, right? Because this healthcare field, it's constantly changing. It's constantly evolving. So thinking that you're expected to know everything is not the case. What is more important than that is your willingness to learn, and not only your willingness to learn, but your willingness to do the work to learn. That's, again, one of the biggest things as well. A lot of people will go into an interview or will start in a company, and they kind of come off like, well, what are you going to teach me? Well, what are you going to show me? How are you going to advance my career? Well, you took a job here. You asked for this position, which means that you should come with knowledge. And if you don't have that knowledge, you should be working to get that knowledge. You're not in school anymore, or the companies that you're working for aren't really a school that their job isn't to teach you. You're now on the job. So if you don't know something, researching, knowing where to go, how to get there, what to research, what's a credible source, what's not. But, your willingness to learn and your willingness to do the work to find the answers, that's such a valuable quality, I can't even tell you. So, again, showing your willingness to learn and to do the work to get the learning done is just invaluable. Last but not least, one of the things that comes up frequently in interviews is talking about previous employment and previous experiences. That can be really tricky, especially if maybe you didn't have the greatest experience with a previous employer. So one thing that I would say you should really focus on is what you learned from that experience. It's not necessarily about how you felt about a particular company or what happened when you left or what have you, but what experience did you gain from that? And sharing more about the experience that you've gained and knowledge that you've gained versus whether, they were a good place to work for or not. Because again, those opinions, everybody's gonna have one, and many times they're different, and So focusing on what you learned from that experience can really get you through that part of the interview, because also, nobody really wants to hear somebody like speaking really negatively about a previous employer, because then they start to question, well, geez, if they don't like completely love this experience, are they going to say that about this company? Or how many other companies do they have that to say about? So really, again, it's about what did you learn from that experience? So kind of a quick recap would be, making sure that your resume is up to par, that you're prepared for the interview, you know what questions you want to ask, that your appearance is thumbs up, and that, if you're remote, that your background looks good as well, considering where you are. Getting your nerves under control and in check prior to that interview, being a team player, your willingness to learn, again, is important, and willingness to do the work to learn is important. And really just kind of showcasing that best about yourself, being confident but not cocky. And, remember that it's not all about you when you're in an interview, that it's what can you bring to the table? What are you bringing in for this company? Why are you the best fit for the position that you're trying to fill? Why is that? And really, that's the key there. So hopefully you found this helpful. Feel free to go ahead and place a comment below. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so that you get our weekly videos. And don't forget, you heard it straight from the horse's mouth.